In this book, kids write a mean limerick about Mallory. I wrote a limerick too. There was a babysitter's club, whose books I always did snub. They were such a huge pain, to get them out of my brain, I had to get drunk at the pub.
Argle Flump Book Review, Argle Flump Book Review.
This book was written by Suzanne Wine. Stony Brook Middle School is running a Teachers of Tomorrow project. Kids will get to teach a class every other day for a week. It's an interesting idea, but as we know from other books, the teachers who run this school are totally incompetent, so the program has a lot of obvious problems. For one thing, there is no screening process. Cookie Mason openly admits she hates school. She probably spends her classes watching movies. Why not? She can't be rejected from the program, so she doesn't have to try. Another problem is that you don't get to pick what subject you teach. Classes are assigned at random, and you could get assigned to teach a subject you don't know. I have to imagine at least one kid was forced to teach a foreign language they don't speak. Poor Mallory is assigned to teach an 8th grade poetry class. She's never taken that class because it's 2 years above her level. It's like the school is purposely setting her up for failure. She knows right away that the older students won't take her seriously.
They'll destroy me. They'll goof off. They won't listen. I'll be so embarrassed. I'll want to disappear.
Kristy is assigned to teach gym for Ms. Walden. She's told to make a lesson plan for the class. Kristy doesn't want to, so she starts daydreaming instead. Then, during a one-on-one planning meeting with Ms. Walden, Kristy gets bored and stops paying attention after the first few minutes. Is it just me, or is this weird behavior for Kristy? Kristy normally takes her work seriously. I don't know why she's become Captain Daydream, who breaks rules because she doesn't care. This is more like Kristy the slacker than Kristy in charge. Ms. Walden finishes the meeting by saying Kristy will be teaching with Cary Retlin. That's the sort of thing she should have mentioned at the start of lesson planning, not the end. In the subplot, Vanessa Pike decides to teach poetry to her younger siblings. They have a fun time until she goes overboard with the game. Vanessa uses blackmail to force them to continue, because they must write poems no matter what. Cary is a laid-back goofball who enjoys making Kristy mad in general. He purposely screws around when she's trying to teach the gym class. He makes silly faces, calls her rude names, steals the soccer ball in the middle of a game, and starts a giant conga line. Mallory's class is just as bad. The kids laugh when Mallory drops some papers. They yell out of turn, and they start calling her Spaz Girl when she breaks a piece of chalk. The nickname spreads like wildfire, and by the end of the week, everyone calls Mallory Spaz Girl. So clearly, the student-teacher program is a colossal failure. But what did they expect? In Book 75, the students constantly misbehaved and humiliated a teacher until he quit his job forever. Why did the school think the students would respect Mallory when they don't respect real teachers? Ms. Walden thinks the next class will go better if Kristy makes a lesson plan. Kristy's lesson plan is overly detailed, but I cannot fault her for enthusiasm. She genuinely likes sports and has fun thinking of ideas. That's why it's weird she decided against making a lesson plan earlier. Cary takes one look at her lesson plan and decides not to do it. Like last time, Cary sabotages the class. He purposely does exercises out of sync with Kristy, so the kids accidentally hit each other. When Kristy splits up the class into 2 teams, Cary orders them to ignore her and join whatever teams they want. It's obvious to me that all the problems are Cary's fault. He's not a good teacher's assistant. Cary's lesson plan contains play soccer with nothing held back. He gets his wish. Some kids who know karate become violent. One trips a player, while another kicks the goalie. Kristy calls penalties, but Cary yells at everyone to ignore her and keep going. The class quickly turns into a giant fist fight. The teachers blame Kristy and Cary, which is ridiculous. Why don't you blame the karate kids who threw the first kicks and punches? Mallory's class is also bad. The kids yell insults at her instead of paying attention. The real teacher scolds the troublemakers and gives them extra homework as punishment, but it's not enough to keep them in line. Vanessa's poetry lessons go so badly, her brother ties her up and locks her in the closet. Abby tells Vanessa that teachers shouldn't be mean and bossy. Good teachers make learning fun. Vanessa purposely imitates her favorite teacher, and the lessons get better after that. Kristy has the good idea to do teamwork lessons in gym class. The kids are forced to work together, which improves their sense of cooperation. It helps that Kristy's lesson forces the kids to be several feet away from each other, so no one can throw any punches. As a result, the class is a big success. Mallory's class is the only one that continues to go badly. The real teacher leaves the room for a few minutes, and the kids erupt into wild chaos. They get yelled at by Mary Ann, of all people, but that doesn't stop them. They keep causing chaos. It's exactly what Mallory said would happen at the start of the book. Why didn't anyone listen to her? The end. Post-book follow-up. I like this book, but I think it needs a minor rewrite because there's too much of a disconnect between what happens in the gym class and the multiple chapters of analysis on what happened. Kristy concludes she was being too aggressive and competitive, which is not true. Yes, she wanted her team to win the soccer game, but she didn't encourage them to punch their opponents. Everyone knows you don't use your arms when playing soccer. I didn't like how Kristy got all the blame for what happened. Cary was clearly the instigator who tried to disrupt the class. Kristy has the lesson plan to prove it. I kind of wish the book told us what happened with Stacy, Marianne, and Anna's classes, but that might have been a bit too much, considering the subplot was also teaching. Mallory's storyline was tough to read, because it's all people being terrible to Mallory. It's an obvious disaster, which easily could have been avoided if the people running the student-teacher program weren't incompetent. Even worse, Mallory's story doesn't get any resolution until 3 to 4 books from now, so we're left with nothing but pure humiliation without any sense of finality. Overall, I enjoyed the book. The focus on different teaching styles was interesting, and it usually makes for good conflict whenever Kristy is forced to compete with Cary. The morals about the fun of learning and the importance of cooperation are good, even if they don't match the book perfectly. I give Babysitters Club number 122, Kristy in Charge, an 8 out of 10. Here's a silly outtake. I like this book. Well, I've got a lot to talk about.